1. About 15 years ago, I was almost 20 and in my country's equivalent of a trade school for electricians. One of our teachers, electronic circuits class, had a kinda annoying catchphrase for every question students had. No problems, just look in your textbook. He had already mentally checked out since he got a way better job lined up for the next semester. So he pretty much only read stuff from the textbook and then switched to the textbook's practical exercises where we had a breadboard and, working in pairs, inserted resistors, capacitors, and other components in it. All in all, not the worst teacher we had, but this one incident made his class very memorable. On the third class we had with that teacher, first one was introduction, second one was how to read resistor color codes. He said his catchphrase no less than 5 times per class. My friend showed me a glaring mistake in the textbook's practical exercise. It was something very simple, placing 3 resistors in series, measuring the current produced with a 24-volt DC power supply, and comparing to the value we had calculated. The first 2 exercises were okay, but in the third one, the values for all resistors were way too low, like 3 orders of magnitude low. Somebody meant to write 10,000 ohms, but typed 10 ohms instead, for every single resistor in that exercise. For people who are not very familiar with electronics, Ohm's law dictates that for a constant voltage supply, current gets higher as resistances get lower. Voltage equals Rxi, which can also be written as I equals V/R. Joule's law dictates that more power, which in a resistor's case would be dissipated as heat, is supplied the higher the current. Power equals resistance times current squared, or P equals Rxi squared. Resistors have the power rating measured in watts, and when the rating is exceeded, they start to produce smoke and/or fire. The power rating for the resistors we were using was 0.25 watts. When resistors are placed in series, their total value is added. In this example, 3 10-ohm resistors would have a total resistance of 30 ohms. If we use the previous formulas, we get a value of 0.8 amps for current and 19.2 watts for power, almost 77 times the power rating of the resistors. If the 10,000 ohms resistors were used, we'd have 0.8 milliamps for current and 19.2 milliwatts for power, well within the power rating of the resistors. My friend and I and a few other students tried to ask the teacher if those values were correct, and his answer, to no one's surprise, was, "No problems, just look in your textbook." I tried to argue that the textbook was plain wrong, and he shut me down, saying how way smarter people than him and I wrote the textbook, so we should just follow it. So everyone, some more reluctantly than others, placed the resistors in the breadboard, connected the power supply, and waited for his instruction to turn it on, as has been for the first 2 exercises without incident. Then he said to turn on the power supply, without even looking in the textbook. At first everything seemed fine, and some people started to get their multimeters. A few seconds later a girl screamed, "Fire!" but it was really only smoke. A few seconds later, and now we had small fires all over the lab, and people freaking out. Nothing spectacular, and they died down a few seconds later, but enough to make most of the 30 people scream and panic, while the smell of burnt plastic from 15 breadboards and burnt ceramic from 45 resistors made the air pretty much unbreathable. To his credit, the teacher engaged the lab's circuit breaker pretty fast and evacuated the room so no one breathed potentially toxic fumes. Since I was expecting it, I was more annoyed than scared, unlike some of the more sensitive people who were crying, and told the teacher, who was looking at the empty lab as if he was seeing ghosts, "There seems to be a problem. Should you look in the textbook now?" He gave a nervous laughter and said, "Maybe you're smarter than the people who wrote it." This screaming attracted a more experienced teacher who, after making sure everyone was okay, just couldn't stop laughing at our teacher. He did keep using his catchphrase, "No problems, just look in your textbook," until the end of the semester, but he was now also looking in the textbook himself and spotted a few glaring mistakes made by those intelligent people. For some reason, he didn't seem to like the nickname we gave him when he heard someone saying in the hallway, Next is textbook idiots class. 2. Around 15 years ago, I was working as a contract nursing assistant for a hospital. One of my jobs as agency CNA was I had to manage a room called the restraint-free room. Mostly because I was a big tall dude, but also because I was agency and the other CNAs hated it, and the full-timers had their clique and agency ain't in it. Reason it was called the restraint-free room is because the facility had strict rules on restraints and only used them as an absolute last resort, preferring to put them all in a small room with someone watching them and redirecting them. But sometimes you just get someone in there that ticked off the nurses. One night, I got one of these guys. He did not want to wear his CPAP machine. Helps him with sleep apnea and probably needs it, but he hates it because it's bulky as hell, the straps suck, and he could not toss and turn in it without waking up. That plus being stuck in a hospital for 2 weeks and being stove up drove him nuts. In my training as a CNA, I was always told a patient can deny treatment and go AMA except in certain cases, like they are a danger to themselves or others, or they can't make decisions because of some legal or medical condition. Being of somewhat right mind after talking with him, he had the right to not wear the thing or have his concerns about it addressed. I did try to convince him to wear it, it is my job, but when he got agitated I said he had a right to do it, and I mentioned I'd have to chart this. He agreed and we were cool. And this should have been the end of it. I chart patient is refusing to wear a CPAP, nurse informed. Most places I had worked it was no problem. Someone with a higher pay grade can handle it, or ignore it. No need for a big deal. Then a nurse practitioner, the charge nurse, and the floor nurse I was under enter the room at like 4 a.m. and flick lights on. Nurse practitioner is angry. For those unaware of the hierarchy of medicine, think of it like hierarchies of tribes, each with its own hierarchy and shared language. In nursing, a nurse practitioner is only rivaled by an anesthesia nurse, even outranking nurse managers, almost on par with lesser doctors, but not in the doctor tribe, and have enormous autonomy and perks. At the absolute bottom are nursing assistants. While essential, we are expendable and do the dirtiest work and spend the most time with patients. She starts berating the floor nurse, then looking in my direction. These people, meaning nurse assistants, i.e. me, are supposed to make sure the patient is wearing the CPAP. It's their job, and your job is to make sure they do this. Are you just sitting here being lazy? All of this in front of the patient, of course, along with another poor patient that just kept falling out of bed, waking him up. Ma'am, you are a nurse practitioner with years of experience and education. If you could show me your technique to do this, I'd be much in your debt. After all, CNA school is only a month-long school. Mind? She grabs a CPAP, goes over. Here, Mr. Whatever, you need this, and tries to put it on. Smack. I think that slap could be heard all the way to the nurse's station. The nurse practitioner's glasses went flying, and in a flurry of activity, code called, and a squad of other CNAs and a nurse with a large dose of emergency tranquilizer march in. Stab him in the butt, and he is in 5-point restraints and out of my room because, well, no restraints in the restraint-free room. I turn to the nurse practitioner after the chaos. If one of your RNs wrote non-compliant, you would not say they're lazy, you would respect their assessment. Why should this be different for a CNA? When I chart this, I don't do it because I want to lay out. I do it to inform the people while making sure my patient is safe and I am safe. She looked up, probably still seeing stars, nodded, and apologized. I never heard crap from her for the rest of my tenure there, and even had me help fix a laptop she had with a simple repair. Not all revenge has to be malicious. Sometimes it can be educational. 3. So this was a few years ago, right after the end of the pandemic. I was working as a guard manager, pastry chef, and wanted to change restaurants to shake things up. I ended up at an Italian place in town that seemed like a nice enough place. I didn't try it first, and I now regret that. Now, it's important to understand the weird structure of this particular restaurant. The owner was in his 70s and barely ran anything, Tom. He just wanted to run his app station and pay someone else to be head chef. That chef is my mentor, Otto. Then there was a sous chef, Keith, and the front-of-house manager, Janine. Janine had been working line cook shifts in the back due to short staffing and felt that made her our boss, even though she had literally zero authority over the line cooks, let alone the chefs. Now, this restaurant, to put it nicely, has seen better days. Not kitchen nightmares material, but definitely going underwater due to their rapidly aging fanbase. Chef Otto was brought in originally as a consultant to revamp the menu and overhaul procedures. He did. Then Janine nagged Tom until he slowly made Otto change it back. Here's the thing. Janine hates change. We've been doing it this way for 20 years. Yeah, and you're in the red. Clearly things need to change. After a few months, Chef Otto got fed up and moved to another restaurant 40 miles away. Unfortunately, I couldn't follow at the time because of a family situation. We remained in touch, him teaching me a lot of things just through conversations. They brought in a new executive chef, Dud, to take over. Janine helped choose this guy. Why did she want him? Because he was a burnout doormat that would do whatever she wanted. Sous Chef Keith and I tried desperately to convince him to stop using recipes that physically, scientifically did not work. But Janine's bitching continued, her famous mantra, "It's fine, we've done it for X number of years," slowly driving me mad. Janine is not just stubborn. She's an active bully that did not like it when people told her no. Tom hasn't had passion for much since probably the 70s, so it was easy for her to bully him and get whatever she wanted. Eventually, Keith also got fed up and bounced, leaving me alone to deal with Janine and her beaten-down lackeys. Now, the important thing is that, weirdly, Tom actually really liked me. He liked that I was excited by food and wanted to make everything beautiful. This meant he gave me free rein. My station was my kingdom. Until the restaurant started opening 7 days a week again. Suddenly, someone else had to run my station when I wasn't there. And guess who? Janine. Janine took this as her opportunity to try and push me around, even though she'd been told repeatedly that she was not my boss and couldn't tell me to do jack. She'd rearrange my entire very large station and prep area for the 1 day a week she watched it, then complain when I fixed it. Now, I'm a fan of do what you gotta do to make a station work for you, especially since she's very tall with back pain. I didn't mind her setting it up how she needed for service. I just wanted her to put it back when she left. It's just basic respect. If it's not your station, put it back. This war went on for months, Tom trying to have a backbone with her because he didn't want me to leave. Near the end of my stay, he brought in an ACF-certified master chef and his apprentice to try again at revamping the menu. The master chef Andy did an exquisite job at modernizing and improving procedures. Let's just say that a lot of the methods we used for Janine's precious recipes were ineffective at best. His apprentice, Nina, was a pastry chef who helped me revamp the entire dessert menu. Tom gave the full of us full control. They were beautiful, easy to plate quickly, and absolutely delicious. The only thing pre-made that we had was the gelato. Janine did not like this at all. She went into absolute overdrive, bitching constantly, making her old recipes when prepping, hiding ingredients, hiding equipment, the works. One thing that seriously got on mine and Nina's nerves was that she literally wouldn't garnish the plates at all. She was just too lazy, I guess, or maybe it was another middle finger. I had a kettle soup warmer to keep hot fudge warm during service because I'd go through about 10 cans of the stuff every 2 days. She started hiding it. As I said, she's a tall woman, like 6'2", and I'm smaller, like 5'4", so she'd hide it on top of things. Now, because I'm not a 3-year-old, I'd quickly find it and get it down. All the while she was convinced that Nina was her new best friend. She wasn't. Nina hated her as much as I did, and would tell her where she hid things to gloat. Nina would obviously turn around and either tell me or just go get it. After all this, my final straw arrives. Tom gave me a budget to go and buy new plates for my new salads. The old salad plates were admittedly very pretty once, but were very old and beat up. They needed to be replaced regardless. I picked out some new plates. They arrived. They're gorgeous. Tom likes them, even seems a little excited about something for once. I came back from my day off 2 weeks later to find all of the new plates in the basement and all of the ratty, beat-up plates that hadn't been thrown out yet back on the station. That was it. I don't know why that was my final straw, but it was. I called Chef Otto within 10 minutes of getting to work and asked if he had a spot for me. He asked what happened, and I gave him the whole rundown. He offered me more money and less responsibility so that I could focus more on learning the other kitchen roles that I'd never really gotten to explore. I put in my 2 weeks that day. Tom was not happy with Janine, and for once, actually put his foot down with her. She wasn't allowed near me my whole notice period. I think he was hoping I'd change my mind. Well, time for petty revenge. My final day comes, and Janine wasn't there. Suddenly I have a wicked idea that didn't actually hurt anything. I took all of the most vital, high-traffic items and moved them all to the bottommost shelves and drawers. Now, this was a huge station with drawer fridges and a Pepsi cooler, so you can imagine about how low those lowest shelves and drawers were. Not just the coolers either. I also did the equipment drawers, dry goods, freezers, you name it, and it got a makeover. I unfortunately didn't get to witness my artwork firsthand, but I did hear about it later from the dish guy. He said that she spent days cursing, bending over, and having to reorganize. I never heard boo about it from Tom because he was still mad at her for driving me out, so either he thought she deserved it or he didn't believe her. Either way, imagining her spending days having to bend over every couple of minutes definitely scratched the itch of pure frustration that had built up over the 4 months after my chef left. I know this is awfully long for a petty revenge story, but this woman seriously made my job an irritating nightmare every single day. 4. When my brother got married, his bride, now my sister-in-law, had very specific expectations. She wanted everyone in the family to wear their wedding colors, and we all did. People flew in from out of state. Everyone made an effort to make her feel celebrated. The day before the wedding, she made some offhanded but clearly pointed remarks about how our side of the family never takes anything seriously, and she wasn't expecting us to take this seriously either. Comments made their rounds, and feelings were hurt before the wedding even began. But we still showed up, looked great, and participated. Fast forward to getting the wedding photo and video, not a single photo of our side of the family was posted. Not one in the entire 3-minute highlight reel. No faces from our family except a 3-second clip of my parents with the bride and groom. The rest of us? It's like we never existed. I texted her, cordially, and asked if she could send me the pictures with just our siblings since none had been posted. She responded that we never took those pictures. That's wild, because I remember helping people adjust corsages for them. She doubled down on the gaslighting. I gave it 6 months and asked again. She suddenly had no idea what I was talking about. Fine. Here's where the petty revenge comes in. I'm getting married in 8 days. I've been engaged for 6 months, and was planning this moment since she tried to erase us. I had hired a great photographer and videographer. What she doesn't know is that the videographer has a secret mission. Make it look like she's getting all the attention. Track her. Hover near her like she's the star of the show. She will feel so seen. And then, the final cut. She won't appear for even 1 second, just like she made sure we didn't. I didn't even invite her originally. Word must have gotten around because she cornered me at a family dinner and said, "Unfortunately, I have to work the day before and after your wedding, but I should still be able to make it." I was so stunned I just said, "That's fine. The Airbnb is booked whether you're there or not." So now she's coming. To cope, I spelled her name wrong on the wedding invite on purpose. That was my first move. The video blackout will be my last. Not asking for advice, not asking if it's too mean, it's not, it's exactly fair. Happy to finally talk about it freely. 5. A long time ago, in this galaxy, I worked at a drugstore as a department lead. I was quite young, did the bare minimum, and hated working Sundays, which were my Fridays. I'll be the first to admit I could have been a better employee, but I knew this wouldn't be my career, and I was just coasting until I graduated. One Sunday rolls around, and I felt awful. I'd already not been feeling great a couple of days prior, and then when Saturday came, I felt pretty okay, but then Sunday, it hit me like a sack of bricks. A couple of hours into my shift, I asked my manager if I could go home. The guys in management despised me, so I was not surprised when this particular manager sneakily responded that I had to get someone else to finish my shift. That was not policy, he was just a dickhead. Fine, no problem. I called one of my co-workers and she came in for me. My boyfriend at the time was working at a hotel down the street. We shared a car, so I went to his hotel to sleep until he got off work. I slept in the lobby for 9 hours straight. We made it home, and I started coughing up blood. My boyfriend forced me to go to the ER that night. I was diagnosed with strep and admitted to the hospital. On the Monday, one of the nurses informed me that I'd be in the hospital for at least a week, so I called my store to let them know. The manager I spoke with hated me more than anyone else at that store, and I told him the news.
You'll be out for a week with strep?
Yeah, do you want to talk to the nurse? She's right here.
No. We'll see you when you get back.
He was clearly irritated by the news, but there was nothing I could do. What I hadn't told him, as I didn't know at the time, is I was admitted to the hospital because they suspected I had something much worse. I was visited by the doctor on Monday, who explained they'd like to investigate further. They suggested a particular procedure, which I'm going to leave out for anonymity reasons. I had no idea what it was or why he'd want to do that particular procedure, except that my blood counts looked weird. I had the procedure done and continued recovering from strep. Tuesday comes and the doctor from the day before pays me another visit. They say they got the results back and that I had a form of cancer and I needed immediate treatment. And so they were then going to send me to the hospital in the big city to start chemo that night. My world turned upside down. I called my best friends, all of whom I worked with, and invited them to the hospital to share the news. One of my friends had a shift that afternoon and broke the news to the store. I had cancer. I spent 28 arduous days in the hospital fighting for my life. My mom had visited my store a few times during my hospital stay and talked with the store manager, letting her know what was going on. My store manager was very understanding and supportive. The other managers never said a word to me, my mom or my friends, about the situation. When I finally got out of the hospital, I went to my old store to pick up my medication. As I made my way back towards the pharmacy, bruised, bald, and with a bright purple pick line sticking out of my arm, I turned down aisle 10, and who do I see? But the crummy manager from earlier in the story, who demanded I'd find my own replacement. "Hi!" I gleefully shouted. The look on his face was priceless. He showed concern, asked how I was feeling. Was I okay? "I'm great now, thank you. It's a good thing I left early that Sunday and ended up in the hospital, so they found the cancer." The whole situation was absolutely delicious. Despite everything I went through, the feeling of complete vindication when they saw my cancer-ridden self was incredible. I never ended up going back to work there. I had to file disability because the next 5 months of my life were week-long hospital stays followed by constant transfusions, checkups, and even a case of sepsis that almost killed me. But I still remember that dickhead's face, and it brings a smile to mine. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Revenge is Ice Cream, episode 412. And big thanks to everyone who let me use their stories in this video. If you'd be so good as to hit the like button before you go, and if you've been thinking about it, this would be a good time to subscribe to the channel. It really does help. If you'd like to support the channel, then why not sign up for my Patreon page? If you do that, for as little as $1 or more a month, more is always welcome, you get all the videos at once on a Monday. And we also have a link there to my merchandise store on Teespring. Okay, that's enough fussing about with the businessy part. Let's move on to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is, what is the smell that instantly takes you back to your childhood? For me, it is always the smell of baked goods. It makes me think of when I was little and my mother would be in the kitchen baking. It's a very happy and comforting scent. Let me know what you think in a comment below. And before we go, let's take a look at the answer of the day from a previous video. And today's answer comes from Revenge's Ice Cream 411, and it was for coffee drinkers. How do you like your coffee? And today's answer comes from, let's see, Mark Westov. Partner and I got a mocha pot recently, which I absolutely adore. It's my new favorite way to brew, and it does it on its own on the stovetop whilst we make breakfast. Really lovely. Thank you very much for your answer, Mark. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. I'm going to get these videos finished. They've been taking longer than usual to make lately, unfortunately. It's a Saturday now, so I'm going to get the videos finished. And afterward, I intend to bake something. And I think I'm making a korma today. So until next time, thank you very much for listening. And take very good care of yourself.